Hello and welcome to the podcast. My name is James Connor. Today I'm going to be interviewing Philip Anders, who is a YouTuber and also a print-on-demand advisor specialist, whatever you want to call it.
Seller, yeah.
Seller, yeah.
Yeah. That's sort of the common consensus, at least.
Oh, something just dropped there.
What happened?
Don't know. I'll keep it in. It's good.
Good start.
Yep. So I just want to start by asking you what inspired you to start your YouTube channel. And just explain it. It's a print-on-demand advice YouTube channel, by the way. Didn't think I said what it was about, but it's about that vaguely.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on the podcast. I'm honoured to be your first guest of many, hopefully. And
good to have you on as well.
It's a print-on-demand channel, and it teaches people how to start their print-on-demand business, how to create designs and sell them, that sort of stuff. And the inspiration for it, I'd say there was many. So I'm a bit of a creative person, and YouTube is obviously like a creative outlet, as is print-on-demand if you like to design. So that was one reason. I just enjoy creating videos. I used to actually run a YouTube channel a long time ago about gaming. Well, I used to edit montages for video games and just upload different stuff. This is like 10 years ago though now. But I missed that.
Do you have any success with the former channel, the gaming one? Was that just sort of like a test bed for you?
That wasn't really intended to be a business. It was more like a hobby.
Yeah, makes sense.
I did make some money through it, but nothing noteworthy. It was more for fun. And but yeah, so I really felt inspired to start another YouTube channel just because I enjoy it. I watch a lot of YouTube myself. That's how I learned print on demand myself for the most part. And there's some YouTubers that I really like, such as Detour Shirts, for example, which was another inspiration that helped me at first, like get some content ideas or how to make my thumbnails look and that sort of stuff. So he was a good inspiration. And then the obvious one is multiple income streams, which print on demand is sort of part of anyway, or consists of. You have multiple platforms that you get income from, and YouTube is obviously another income source to add to that. So that's as also an inspiration, of course.
Secondary inspiration. I'd say it's probably a secondary inspiration, isn't it? The money stream, but primarily you just enjoy creating things and sort of teaching.
Yeah,
people how to do things.
I really enjoy the teaching and helping people. It's really fun to actually get feedback from people that say they've watched the content and they've started to get better or getting more sales and that sort of stuff. So,
and even as like a non-expert, I've watched quite a few videos on your channel, and it's sort of interesting, even from an outside perspective. Some things like the AI videos I found like really, really interesting.
Yeah. Which ones did you see?
I can't remember what the model is now. I can't remember what the model is.
Was it about Mid-Journey or something?
It was one of your Mid-Journey ones. I think you started on that a little bit later on, didn't you? With Mid-Journey. I don't think it was your first.
Yeah.
I think it was the one I watched recently where you used Mid-Journey to create. I think it was dog t-shirt designs. I think it was really interesting. Sort of the iterations, but it's kind of, you have to train the software, don't you? You sort of have to go through sort of almost like a sandboxing of what you type in. Very much is sort of influences the results, and it's quite difficult to get that balance right, isn't it? Sometimes.
I mean, it makes design easier in some aspects, but it's not as easy as it might look in the videos. So I just see it as a different option to design something, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily the easiest. Or at the moment, it might get a lot better in future and a lot easier. But
I suspect as time goes on, it will get a lot better. And when you first generate AI pictures. You won't be. It struggles with the model struggles with doing animal feet, for example, doesn't it? Paws.
Yeah. 10 legs.
Yeah, I've seen that crop up quite a few times, and you generate some, and the paws just sort of like deformed and stuff. But it'll get better. So, what would you say some of your biggest challenges are that you've faced being a YouTuber so far?
So there's two things. That's a good question. There's two things that come to mind. First one is during the first sort of half a year of doing YouTube, the goal, and I'm guessing most people who've started a YouTube channel before probably relate to this. The goal is kind of to reach the requirements for being able to run ads or have AdSense access, which is at the moment is 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours. And the 4,000 watch hours was actually a lot harder for me, or it sounds a lot harder than it might appear, because getting people to watch a video for like 10 minutes is really hard. I'm guessing many watching can relate as well. Even if you see like the shorts now on YouTube, you don't even watch the full short. So getting someone to click on your video and then watch it to the end, it's really hard. So that took a long time to reach that goal. But it was still a good challenge, because it challenges you to get better, to create content that actually people want to carry on watching, rather than just 10 seconds and bye.
I think it's supposed to be about 8 seconds, and the average YouTuber watches. The average viewer watches the average video 8 seconds before they cut off.
Wow!
You've got to really get grab them by the balls in the first sort of 2-3 seconds of the advert, sort of start shouting. But it does make me think, what's next in the form factor? Is it going to be shorts, is it, or something?
1 second content.
like Vine, sort of reincarnate. I don't know if you remember Vine. You could, I think it was like a 10-second video limit or something.
Was it really? Oh,
yeah,
wow.
It was really short.
I've heard of it, but I can't remember the specifics of it.
It was terrible. There was no the problem with it was there was no monetization on the platform. There was no way to externally or internally get revenue from it. So although it was a really popular platform, it just died a death because it wasn't able to make money for the people that came out with it. But I think Vine was the inspiration for TikTok. I was
just going to say,
correctly,
it sounds like TikTok took the idea and made it better, which is interesting, because I recently heard in a book as well that's very common with very big businesses. Like Google didn't have the idea for a search engine, did it?
No, it wasn't.
It just made it better than the previous ones.
Exactly. It took they went deeper into algorithms and made the results more relevant to what you see. The very original ones were just reeled back, sort of an average list, but not. You wouldn't really look at in-depth metadata of websites, things like that. So you had like Excite and Dogpile. They were garbage basically, but they were all we had. When you first went on the internet, I remember sort of digressing a little bit here, but to let you know, when we first went on the internet ever, you didn't actually have search engines, so you had to have like a magazine in front of you. You had to have a computer magazine, and it would be there'd be lists of like Jim Brannan's website on telephone boxes, and you'd have to type in a ridiculously long URL, and it'd be like some GeoCities Gopher website or something. And literally, you couldn't go online. And Yahoo started with, I think Yahoo started as an index of websites. They literally started as like when they first started, the one that search engine was just indexing of. Like it's just a list basically, and that evolved
like a telephone book.
Yeah, kind of like a telephone book. Yeah. It's a terrible day. You should be glad that you missed out those the bullshit years of the internet. To be honest,
that sounds pretty interesting to be able to compare it now as well. But it must have taken you forever to find a website. But anyway, to get back to the original question, another challenge that I thought of was. Challenge of being a YouTuber is negative feedback, which luckily I don't get too much of, but especially now with some of the AI videos I'm making, there's obviously a lot of people who are very anti-AI, and I totally understand both sides. That's not the problem, but I think as humans, it's quite natural to sort of focus on negative stuff, negative feedback.
That's true.
Rather than, like, I'll get, say, 10 good comments, and then there's one bad comment, and that sort of ruins my next hour, sort of thing. And the other 10 good comments don't weigh as heavily as the bad comments. So that's definitely a challenge. I think if you're not very mentally strong, let's say, and you get more feedback or more negative feedback, that might be a problem and can be quite challenging sometimes. So you have to sometimes ignore the comments or detach yourself from it.
Yeah, I once posted a video on YouTube. It was like I was just doing like a university thing. It was a lecture that I'd prepared, and some of the it was like 90% insults on it. Literally,
really,
it's like the opposite of your ratio.
Okay,
there was like one person said, "Come on, he's trying a little bit," but yeah, I sort of didn't really get it until I just sort of thought back to that moment when I read those negative, and it really does have a bit of an effect on you. It sort of knocks your confidence a little bit.
Yeah,
the internet's always going to be, haters going to hate, as Taylor Swift says.
It's natural, yeah. It's completely normal. It can be very demotivating sometimes, but you have to realise it's like,
do you ever?
It's going to happen.
Reply in I've never seen you address any comments in your videos, or you just like take it on the chin and move on from it, or
I try to just not waste any energy on it, because I think if someone's already got a negative opinion, there's no point trying to change it. Occasionally I'll say, like, yeah, I get where you're coming from, and defend myself a little bit, but for the most part I just ignore them. I don't think there's any point.
Is that the most negativity is on AI videos, is it, that you've noticed? Is it sort of more of a shift to negative comments with people being...
Yeah, I mean, there isn't much. It might sound like there's tons, but it is very overwhelmingly positive. But since the AI videos, that's when they start to, like, since then a few more have popped up, a few more negative comments of just people hating on AI, basically, and hating me for sharing it, in a sense.
I suppose you just can't really take it personally, can you, in a sense? I mean, I'd say the underlying driving factor probably is just the hatred and fear that people's jobs are going to be taken.
Yeah, I get where the people are coming from. I totally understand it, but I also see the benefit of... Well, let's not go into that topic. We could talk about that forever.
That's true. So how do you come up with ideas for new content?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I am a creative person, so I don't really ever struggle with this or don't think about it much. Usually I do get a lot of ideas to just, I don't know, laying in bed, not being able to sleep. I get like 10 video ideas. But what's definitely helped me is, reading comments and interacting with people. So we've got a Discord server with, I think, over 1,000 people in it now. And through that server, I have spoken to probably hundreds of people by now. And obviously, hearing what sort of questions come up a lot or what people struggle with, that's exactly what you need for video ideas, really. How can you solve someone's problems or struggles with a video? So if anyone was struggling with ideas, just look at your target audience and then try and figure out what they're currently struggling with and try and solve that problem.
I've seen a lot of other YouTubers. They go on Patreon and sometimes they ask inspiration for videos, or similarly as you, people comment and they take those ideas. I mean, I should imagine obviously at the start of your journey it was you having to generate those ideas, but I suppose in a sense as well, if you feed back to your audience, it gives you that sort of extra interactivity with them as well, and it's good. It's good to listen to your audience and sort of that produce content that people may want to be more interested in generally as well, potentially. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I mean, I do a lot of polls as well on YouTube, and just trying to figure out more of what your audience doesn't do, what tools they use. Like, there is many ways, but essentially at the start, if you don't have audience interaction, just show how you do something. If you're teaching stuff and you know a subject very well, or even just decently well, just share how you do it. It doesn't have to be perfect. People will learn from it, and there's always things that I can come up with. I don't know, another Adobe Illustrator tutorial, a different type of design to create, or I'll research some new free tools or free fonts. There's always something you can find online to share.
I like your fonts videos. They're quite useful. And I've actually done a little bit of design on some of the fonts, and I think most of them are free for commercial use, aren't they? The ones that you pick. And Google Fonts. Yeah, Google Fonts is a great resource, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
So sort of moving on a little bit, and it's kind of links to the last question as well, really. And I think we've covered it with the Discord, really. Are there any other ways in which you're able to engage with your audience in addition to Discord, or is it mainly the use of Discord for you at the moment, for yourself?
Yeah, so that's mainly it. I mean, obviously YouTube comments as well. When people comment, I do tend to reply to most of them. But yeah, YouTube comments, Discord, and email. I mean, some people email me. It's more rare, and it's less likely that I will reply on email, probably because it's just not as easy as quickly do it on YouTube.
Yeah,
but that's the main touch points.
Yeah. So what would you say is next for the YouTube channel? What have you got sort of coming up in terms of growth or development for the channel?
Yeah, good question. So I definitely am going to look a lot more into, or pay a lot more attention to, what happens with AI development, because it's an exciting new topic. I think it can benefit print-on-demand sellers if people are open to trying it out. It's not a necessity that you have to use it, but I think print-on-demand is not going to be easier. It's already not easy, but it's not going to be easier if you just ignore new technology, right? So that's why I want to keep.
It's not. It's not.
Yeah, kind of like the companies that ignored the internet when it first came about and suffered from that over the long term.
It's a really good analogy, actually, of people that stuck ahead.
Have you got an example?
Well, I'd say a modern example of that would probably be Primark, for example. I mean, it's not that they ignored a trend, but when they set up originally, they never had a website. They never thought, they just focused everything on sales in the shop. And then obviously when the pandemic hit, then their sales fell off a cliff because they were able to open up, and those online retailers of clothes suffered a boom, and Primark sort of fell by the wayside, lost a lot of profits because of that.
Do they have a website now where you can buy stuff?
They've just started recently with a website. It's quite specialist. Well, last time I looked on it, it's quite specialist. What you could buy on it.
Okay.
But as akin to AI, I think, especially in that customer service sector, if you start utilising it, I think it's quite a useful tool. Is there any other way in print on demand that you could utilise it other than the creation of illustration designs, for example, themselves?
So you could also use AI for creating a listing, for example, or it can aid you in the process. If you teach it what some of the requirements are, and I've not looked into this properly yet, but I know of some people who do this. But if you teach ChatGPT the requirements of like a merch for Amazon listing, because there is some rules that play into it, and then just tell it, create a listing for a fishing design with this phrase on it or whatever, then it can help you speed up that process, because some people really struggle with writing those descriptions and titles. So once you've taught it how to, you just give it some primary keywords and that's it.
And then it's just a case of copying and pasting what it comes back with over to.
Yeah, I mean, I would still check it for trademarks and everything before actually using it, but it takes some of the boring work out of it for most people. And that's just one example. You can use it for research as well, to try and find niches, to try and find funny phrases to put on a shirt. If you lack inspiration or creativity, it might help you come up with some stuff. And that's just one example. I'm sure there's way more ways to use it, but we have to figure it out over time, I guess.
I suppose you could. I mean, I've actually tried asking it for examples for t-shirt design ideas, and it does actually. You can carry on asking it to generate more ideas, and it does actually come up with some half decent suggestions for actual designs, rather than sort of creating the image or creating listings. It can, but they're probably. I mean, I suspect at this point, even with the chat GTP4, that you probably will come up with more creative ideas on your own. And then there's also the other the sort of danger of other people creating exactly the same products, ideas through AI, because it might just give other people exactly the same sort of spat out.
Yeah. I mean, people create the same sort of stuff anyway, or
That's
copy
true.
each other. So it's just another way to go down that lane. But no, it makes sense. I mean, you are going to have some duplications of results and stuff, but
It's like when people bring out films. You know, you'll get two films that I can't remember. There's a phenomenon where I think it was in the 90s. Pretty much every single year in the 90s, two films came out that were almost identical. There was, I think, there was Armageddon and Deep Impact that came out in 1996. Both followed pretty much the identical plotline in terms of an asteroid coming towards the Earth, and one was terrible, one was great, but they were literally the same idea. Loads of other things.
but by different directors.
Different directors, and one was garbage, and one was, I mean,
All right.
and one was the one that had Morgan Freeman in it was all right. Deep Impact was a decent film, but So moving back to YouTube, a bit of an off the wall question, but how do you feel about Raid Shadow Legends, and how do you maintain your integrity when it comes to sponsorships for the channel?
Yeah. So Raid Shadow Legends, I know the name and I remember it from, my video gaming days, because people did used to advertise it.
It's almost a meme of a sponsor at this point.
Is it? Yeah.
Literally a meme in itself.
Is that because the game is so rubbish, or I don't get the meme behind it?
It's just essentially it's because so many people hawk that product, and they'll literally approach any YouTube creator, whether they're a gaming channel or not. They'll literally approach any fact channel, anything. They'll throw money at anybody at no price, essentially making the YouTube content creator a shill. I think they're an Israeli-based development company, I think. And not
they haven't approached me.
They haven't.
Not yet, no.
Oh, just you wait. Just you wait.
Can't wait for it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what their subscriber level is that they approach people on. I'll guess they've got their own metrics when they look into it, but watch this space.
Maybe soon. With sponsors, it is an interesting question about how to decide which sponsors you should take on or not, because to give you an example, at the moment, I probably get maybe 5 offers a week.
Really?
From companies wanting to do sponsored collabs, and I ignore most of them. I remember the first ever offer I got, and this is a while back. I got really excited and just took it on, thinking, someone will pay me to create a video. Cool. And I started recording the video, and this was for a research tool, and I was struggling to use the tool myself. So right. I just thought, if I'm struggling to use it, I don't want to recommend it to my subscribers. So I just sent them the money back. And that was sort of my enlightening moment as to, or to decide that I'll only promote stuff that I'm either already using myself or that I want to use in the future, or that I've seen other people use and really like myself or like the look of. And I will always test stuff before I would take on a sponsorship. So there is a lot of offers that you get that have nothing to do with your content, really. I got one recently from a British company about, and this was quite a hard one to turn down, but just to give you an example, for a standing desk. So I'm on a traditional desk now where you can only sit, but these standing ones that sort of move up electrically, they've become quite popular, haven't they? And I actually want to get one because I do suffer from a bit of back pain and stuff like that from the constant sitting. So it's kind of like, you could probably get one for free with making that video. But do my subscribers care about a standing desk? No. So
no, I mean it's not the focus of the channel, is it really? It could be a side issue in terms of, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it could benefit people, but it wouldn't really interest anyone. In terms of
ergonomics, but that's a very sort of sub niche design job, I suppose. But yeah, I think that's a really good approach to take, because not only can you shield yourself for products that have no integrity or you don't like yourself, but you can also you don't want to be just hawking your channel just to get freebies, do you really? No, I think that's quite a respectable approach to take as a content creator, I'd say.
I think there's more value in just saying no to the free desk, and buying one myself than putting out a video that people don't like and just then they perceive me as like a sellout. I think that's a worse impact than getting a free desk. Really benefits you.
I think you have to be quite kind of careful as well, because I mean, you can if you don't research the product that you're putting out there, some products can be dangerous or fake, or they can, like some of these crypto currency sponsorship deals. I think Linus, the massive YouTuber Linus Tech Tips, he endorsed a cryptocurrency trader, I think it was, and then it turned out that this guy who was on a platform basically was supposed to be a criminal, and he'd been defrauding people in the field basically, and Linus came on and basically just sort of backtracked a little bit on it. So I think you really have to be sort of careful, and I if I did sort of get into YouTube, I think I'd take a similar approach to you. Try and test the products. If you can't use it yourself, why are you telling people to use it if you can't even don't find a use for yourself?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with sponsorships, and in a lot of ways they can benefit people as well if the product is good. But you have to be careful, I think, what you choose.
And there's even YouTube channels that are dedicated to calling out sponsorship deals as well.
Yeah,
there's quite a lot of those on YouTube, and it's really interesting to watch. And it's mainstream YouTubers that just seem to go on a whim, because there'll be a certain product. There was one for Japanese knives as well, and they were saying that they were all authentic Japanese knives made in Japan from Japanese steel, but it turned out that they're actually made in China, and they were made from absolute crap material. And everyone was like purporting to be knife experts and testing them on the cookery channels, and I can't remember which YouTuber it was now, but it was a major YouTuber put them out.
So do they research then the product that is being sponsored and figure out these
they do a deep dive into the product itself. They research the authenticness of where it's made, what it purports to be, if there's any scientific sort of research behind it, like Keeps, for example.
What's Keeps?
Keeps is
I've heard of that.
it's for hair loss. So when you start to use your hair, you're supposed to put it all over your hair, and it's supposed to maintain what you've already got. And I don't really see any scientific merit behind it. I don't see how putting something on your hair can keep your hair follicles from disappearing. I think it's hokum and nonsense. Personally, sue me. Prove me wrong.
Did you see a sponsorship deal with Keeps or?
Oh, I've seen quite a lot. I've seen a lot of YouTubers do Keep sponsorship deals. Yeah, and I'm the most skeptical person ever, but I'm super skeptical about Keeps. And they're making it. The bottom line is they're just taking advantage of people, I think, and making lots of money off the back of it. That's all it's down to. So when I put this on YouTube, I don't expect my first email to be from Keeps. they can keep it. Terrible pun.
Well, we'll wait until you get the email. Next video sponsored by Keeps.
I bloody need it anyway. Or do I? I don't know. I did think I was sitting on the back the other week. And I get paranoid about it, but it doesn't. It's just a vanity thing, really. So, is there a potential from views only to get a monthly income, or do YouTubers need to diversify with products, if that makes sense? And I think we've sort of touched on that essentially with the sponsorship.
We've touched on it. Views alone is possible, but it's hard. I think a lot of the bigger YouTubers you see, most of the money that they make is not from views or ad revenue. It will be from products or sponsorships, some affiliate marketing. So adding those things definitely makes it a lot easier. To give you an example, well, the thing with views and money, I think what a lot of people don't understand is it's not like getting views doesn't get you money. It's actually watch time that's way more important. You can make a video that's 1 minute long, it gets 100,000 views, but you make a video that's 30 minutes long and gets 20,000 views, but makes more money because it's a long video. And that's if people watch it, right? If everyone clicks off after 8 seconds, then you don't get much ad revenue. So clicks is just like the first step on a long formula of stuff that you have to really follow to get more ad revenue. And it depends on the niche as well. If you're making gaming videos, I mean, who's really watching the gaming videos? Not a lot of people who would want to spend a lot of money for the most part. Like, you spend some money on a console like once every 5 years maybe, when you buy the odd game. But if you're in the print on demand niche, for example, obviously you're targeting people that are into business and therefore more likely to spend money, because businesses like to spend money. It's just normal, way more than private people. So advertisers pay differently depending on the niche, is what I'm trying to say. But to give you a rough number, like in the print on demand niche, which is quite decent for what's called CPM. I don't even know what that stands for in long form, but how much you get paid per 1,000 views is quite good for that, the print on demand niche. For 1 million views, which is obviously quite hard to reach, you get maybe $5,000, $6,000. That's
a really high click. Well, I don't know what the actual term for it is. I probably should have looked at it, but that's a really sort of high cost to view ratio, isn't it? That's pretty impressive. 1 million views, and you only have to do that.
So you mean that's a good amount? Did you expect it to be less?
Not really. I mean, I sort of I've read an average once where it said that for every 1 million views, the average. I mean, you can't really talk about it in terms of average because, as you say, different niches get different revenues, don't they? But I read that it's an average of 1 million views would get you roughly about £1,000 in income.
Yeah, I think the average YouTube CPM is a lot lower than print on demand. But even still, I mean, 1 million views is not easy to get, and then $6,000. Like, yeah, obviously it's a good amount of money, but to make that like a normal wage sort of on a monthly basis is quite hard to reach. So that's why, yeah, well, for the most part, it makes sense to include things like affiliate products.
Absolutely, and I know I keep going back to Linus as an example, but he has a whole team of people, doesn't he? He has a massive team of people working underneath it. He's just paid millions of pounds for a testing studio to bench test various equipment on. There's no way that without selling items on his store, without the Patreon subscriptions, mostly it's products that he sells on his own store that he's managed to get. Like he sells water bottles and that. But is that something that you could ever sort of see yourself doing in terms of creating a Patreon? And additional on that one, I've noticed what a lot of some YouTubers do is at the end of the video they'll put the patrons' name up, they'll put the members' name up, and the Patreon members will pay $1 a month for it. And I've seen some, like Dank Pods, for example, he's got well over 1 million subscribers. And at the end, there's this list that goes up, and it goes on forever and ever. And every time I see it, the list gets bigger. And I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, he must be making thousands of pounds off this $1 subscription.
Yeah. Patreon is interesting. I'm pretty sure it's similar to the join feature on YouTube, isn't it? You can also join a channel as a member. I already do offer that for also $1 a month.
All right.
and people get like some perks, such as they get access to some graphics that help with t-shirt design. They get early access to trend related videos and priority reply to comments, because the more comments you get, the harder it is to keep up with them. So I'll reply to members first.
They get flagged as Patreon comments.
Yeah, you get like an icon. You get an icon next to your name, and you can filter by channel members. You can filter the comments. So yeah, I mean, I think that's a good option. Some people are happy to contribute because, well, if they're sort of consuming, that's the good thing about YouTube, isn't it? They're consuming educational content for free, rather than having to go to a uni for $20,000 a year, which is awesome. So some people are happy to contribute like a small amount to get some perks in return. Patreon, I know, is another good option, I think. But then you're sending people, I think the reason why I didn't do it is you're sending people off to another website, aren't you? It doesn't integrate with YouTube. So it's like an extra step.
Yeah,
you have the join button there. So you probably have slightly higher conversion rate if you don't have extra steps added to it. But yeah, I think that's an option. I mean, it probably doesn't have as much of an impact as like a sponsorship deal, but
it's a slow burner, isn't it? It's a slow burner. I mean, I think you've got how many? Is it about 24,000 subscribers now? Have you?
Around that, yeah,
something like that. But obviously, that's going to be an exponential growth, isn't it? And then you've obviously got more people off the back of that going into your Patreon as a subscriber. So it's quite an interesting side revenue stream anyway.
It's interesting. Yeah, I think for it to be worth it, you have to have quite a big channel, I think, because with the join memberships, I don't know how Patreon works, but with the YouTube join memberships, YouTube takes like 40% of it. So if you're doing it for $1, you get left with 50p essentially.
I suppose in a sense they provide the platform for you to do it, and you don't really have to do that much you do in terms of extra content. That's understandable, but I suppose it's
depends what you offer. It's up to you. You don't have to offer anything much. Just say you get a nice little badge next to your name, and that can literally be it for $1. But I did want to offer some more helpful stuff than that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're as a learning channel, educational channel. I think it's probably sort of a sign of integrity, isn't it, that you are offering something extra, rather than just a gamer that doesn't necessarily care about the progress of every single person watching the channel or commenting and asking questions. So, final question for you, and almost probably a cliche question in a sense, but what advice would you give to anybody who is starting up a YouTube channel in 2023, given it's a saturated market, isn't it? Very so many YouTubers chasing so little viewers. But what advice would you give to sort of starters, would you say?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, I wouldn't consider myself an expert YouTuber, and I only started this channel like a year ago. So I've still got a lot to learn. But I think the main thing that's going to help you is to focus on providing value, because, like I mentioned earlier, that getting the clicks is just one part. You can learn how to create clickbait thumbnails and, you know, very exciting titles for your video. But if once people click on it, they don't actually find the content valuable, they won't come back, right? They won't stick around to watch the video in the first place, and then maybe to watch your future ones and subscribe eventually. So I think the more value you can keep providing and sort of surprising people with, the more you're going to retain viewers, and that will then, well, bring out the ad revenue as well and that sort of stuff. So so don't focus on getting clicks, is what I'm trying to say. Focus on providing value. Yeah. It's a hard balance to strike, because obviously if you make a video saying how to make $500,000 in a week, lots of people are going to click it, but that doesn't mean the video is actually as valuable as the thumbnail.
I'm not going to come back when they realise, as you say, it's clickbait and nonsense.
Yeah.
It's not true.
So I do some of that. Like, I'll put some dollar numbers in my thumbnails to get people to click, but I do actually want to provide value in the video that will help them get there in the long term. I wouldn't say it takes 1 week. So it's a hard balance to strike, but I think focusing on that is important.
Yeah. Okay. And in terms of... mine's gone completely blank now.
That's fine. Mine's always blank.
I know it's blank as mine. Jesus. No, that's interesting about what you say about the thumbnails. And I did have an additional question actually about the thumbnails. As somebody who's sort of starting off, what do you look for when you're creating your thumbnail? What do you? I mean, obviously, it's probably a title summary of what the video is about. But would you try and how long do you spend on your thumbnails, and how do you sort of compose them and put them together?
Okay. About eight questions in one. I'll start from the beginning. So, what do you look for in thumbnails? So there's a really good. I'll give you my opinion, but there's a really good YouTube channel who talks about thumbnails in more depth and YouTube, how to run your YouTube channel in general, which is called Film Booth, and that's where I learned about that's where I learned a lot of my lessons for the YouTube channel. So if anyone wants to learn it, go to him, Film Booth. What you want to look for in your thumbnail is intrigue. That's one thing. So maybe some sort of question. Make the viewer intrigued about what the answer is.
That's good.
In the video.
That's good.
That's one idea. Yeah, it's hard to say. It depends on the video. There's lots of different video types where different thumbnails apply, but there's always like a boring way to create a thumbnail with lots of text saying, tutorial on creating a t-shirt design. That's fairly standard, which a lot of people might put.
It's not engaging at all, is it?
No, it's not.
That's the only thing.
It doesn't sound exciting.
It's the only thing going to see on the side, isn't it? In recommendations, is just that tiny little sort of snippet, and you got to grab them whilst you can, haven't you? With that tiny little sort of, I can't remember how many pixels it is on the screen, but it's not very large.
And some of my thumbnails are probably boring as well, but you need to spice things up a bit sometimes and try and make the thumbnails quite clear and quick to understand, because like with most things on the internet, a lot of people watch on their phone to begin with, so if they're like scrolling through their feed, and well, you probably know it yourself, if you see a video with lots of text on it and like an unclear thumbnail, you're more likely to scroll past it. If there's like three big words
Yeah.
3 big words and a face like, then you'll click on it.
Yeah.
More likely, at least.
Like the worst computer in history or something, and then someone going, like you said, like that.
Yeah,
holding it like that, and I think I like the way that you put your face into something else. I think that's quite engaging, and it adds a sort of personal touch as well, doesn't it? Really, as well as grabbing you as a personality into the channel to click on the video.
Yeah, it helps connect the viewer, because I think that's a big part of YouTube as well, which a lot of people don't realize. It's about connecting to the YouTuber.
That's right.
And I mean, I've been watching YouTube for so long, and I've had this so many times. You feel like you're the YouTuber's friend, even though the YouTuber's never even spoken to you. So it's building that connection, and that is why I think also for people starting out, it's important that you show your face, even if you might not feel comfortable with it at the start. It is really weird just talking into a camera on your own. But you get used to it. Like if I look back on my videos from 1 year ago, they were terrible. I feel a lot more confident now, and yeah, that connection is built way better if you're looking at person rather than just hearing their voice.
And I suppose at the start you didn't really have an audience that will watch you, but now you know that every video you make, you're going to have probably a couple of thousand people watching it. So you are actually really talking to people, aren't you? When you start out, you're not really. So
no, that's a good thing, and that's what another YouTuber said as well, who helps people start YouTube channels. It's like people overthink their first video. No one's going to watch it anyway, and as soon as you've uploaded it, it gets easier. Then you've got over that anxiety and notice that, well, nobody's watched it anyway. That's true. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, well, I think that probably just about sort of wraps it up. How can people join your Discord if they're wanting to access your channel?
I don't know the link off the top of my head, but it's in the video description of basically all of my videos. So if you leave my channel link in your description, then people can find it on there. But yeah, thanks a lot for having me on. It was a fun conversation.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been fun.
Good questions.
Thanks very much. And we'll see you all next time for the next podcast. Thanks.
All right.
Thanks, Philip.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.